League. I'm your host, Aaron Beggs. On today's episode, we are going to have a review of all of the round 2 action in the New South Wales National Premier League competition and a preview of round 3. Plus, we'll have a look at another one of Australia's most well-known clubs. And starting with the action from round 2, and this week got underway on Friday night with 3 games being played. Let's start the recap with Manly United versus the Sutherland Sharks. The home side was looking to build on their great start to the season after last week's demolition of Central Coast, while the visitors were looking to get their NPL season properly started after last week's draw against Sydney United. But it wasn't to be for the home side as the visitors took the lead midway through the first half and quickly doubled it to take a 2-0 lead into half-time. Back from the break, it didn't get much better for the home side when they were caught out trying to play out from the back, and the Sharks quickly gained possession and managed to score their third, and that's where it ended, with Sutherland getting their first win of the new season. Goal scorers for Sutherland were Makis Petratos got 2 and Lachlan McDonald got 1. We move on to the second game on Friday night, and that was from Barton Park, St George, where St George FC took on the current premiers Rockdale. And after a scoreless first half where both sides could have taken the lead numerous times, it was the home side that shocked the visitors when they were converted a penalty in the 60th minute. But it was the Premiers that never gave up, and in the closing minutes of the game, they equalised. And with pressure building on the St George defence, Rockdale took the lead in added time to come out winners 2-1. Goal scorers for St George FC, Danaskos, and for Rockdale, Cholakian and Ovens. While the third game on Friday night saw the Wollongong Wolves take on the other St George team, St George City, down at Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. And unfortunately for the home side, after taking the lead, the game was called off due to inclement weather with lightning striking around the city of Wollongong. So postponement there. As we move on to the other games on the weekend, we'll go to Saturday and we'll go to Landon Park in Blacktown for the game between Blacktown City and the NWS Spirit. And it was the away team that took the lead in the 13th minute from a well-taken goal from their main man, Yu Okubu. But after the break, it all turned pear-shaped for Blacktown when they were reduced to 10 men when Grant Lynch was deemed to be the last man, and the resulting penalty was scored by Takuni Ofuka. And just my personal thought, I didn't think it was a sending off. A penalty, but not a red card. I think it was a clumsy challenge. I don't think it should have been a send-off, but the rules are rules, last man standing, red card. But I thought it was a penalty. I didn't think it was a red card, but if you have a different version, let me know. But by then it was all over, and when Kubo got his second, there was no coming back for Blacktown. And to finish it off, Jacob Kresnar scored an own goal to make it 4-0 victory for the Spirit and put them, albeit on top of the ladder, for a short time. As I said, we had Kubo scoring 2 and Ofuka getting 1 and a Kresnar own goal in that game. The first home game for the newly promoted Mount Druitt team saw the reigning champions Marconi travel west to Popadenta Park, and it was the Stallions that took the lead through an unfortunate own goal from Joseph White early in the first half. They then doubled their lead from Damien Tekenis' goal in injury time during the first half, and that's where the game finished, with Marconi coming out winners 2-0. The Rangers will be ruining what could have been with a missed penalty chance during the first half, but in the end, Marconi well and truly deserved this win. Goal scorers were Tekenis and White. The final game from Saturday saw Sydney Olympic take on the Western Sydney Wanderers at Belmore Sports Ground, and while this on paper looked to be a showcase game, in reality it was not. with what was a dour game through to half time, and it didn't get much better during the second half, with only bright spark coming from the Wanderers when substitute Awan Luai scored the only goal of the game in the 75th minute. That's where it ended, with the Wanderers getting a 1-0 victory. Good for them. Sydney Olympic are not going that great at this present moment. I know it's only round 2, but yeah. As we move on to Sunday's games, first we have Sydney FC taking on Sydney United. And it was Sydney FC that took the cookies in this one after what was a scoreless first half. It didn't take long after the break for the floodgates to open on both sides, with the Sky Blues taking the lead through Joe Lacey in the 48th minute. United hit back shortly after, with Mason Wells equalising. But the celebrating was short-lived when Joseph Kalusic again put the Sky Blues ahead to make it 2-1 with half an hour to go. And the Blues made sure of the win in the 80th minute when Matthias McAllister finished United off, and that's where it ended, with Sydney FC running out 3-1 winners. And to finish off this week's games, we head to the Central Coast, where we had the Mariners playing at home against, as some would say, and me being one of those, the early favourites for the league title, Apia Leichhardt. And it was Apia that come out winners in this one, absolutely running riot on the Mariners, hitting them for 6, coming out 6-2 winners. It was a quick start of the game for the away team, when Jordan Segreto getting the first goal in the 11th minute, and it didn't take long for Apia to double their lead, with Presley Ortiz getting the second in the 21st. Ortiz quickly had his brace in the 30th minute, making it 3-0 at halftime. It wasn't until the 53rd minute that the Mariners got into the game with a goal from Lawrence Taylor. But just 10 minutes later, it was Apia that put their game to bed, with Michael Kuta making it 4-1. And shortly after, Alex Denmead got the away team's 5th. It was a home side, and that man Taylor again that got a consolation second for the Mariners in the 79th. But it was Ortiz that completed his hat-trick in injury time to round out an absolute thrashing. If we look at the ladder after 2 rounds, we have Apia, NWS Spirit, Sutherland, Marconi, Rockdale, Western Sydney Wanderers, Manly, Sydney FC, Sydney Olympic, Wollongong, St George City, Sydney United, Mount Druitt, Blacktown, St George FC and Central Coast Mariners, rounding out the rear and look well and truly far beyond what they should be. If we go to the My Picks section of the episode, I picked Manly United, Wollongong Wolves, Rockdale, Marconi, Sydney Olympic, Blacktown City, Sydney United and Apia. And if you look at that, the winners during the week were Apia, Sutherland, Sydney FC, Spirit, Western Sydney Wanderers, Rockdale, Marconi, and the other game was postponed. So I only got 3 out of a possible 7 there. If we move on to round 3 action, which starts on Friday, the 21st of February, we have the Wanderers taking on Sutherland at Wanderers Stadium, Manly United versus Sydney United at Cromer Park, again on a Friday night, and again at home, starting to look like, and if you're an NRL fan, which most of you probably are from Sydney, it started to look like a Brisbane Broncos draw there for Manly United. I don't like how this team's had 3 home games on a freaking Friday night. Let's get the draw sorted out. It's a Football Australia draw, mate. Like, it's ridiculous. And to round out the games on Friday night, it's St George FC versus Mount Druitt at Barton Park. On Sunday, we have Olympic taking on the Wolves at Belmore Sports Ground, Rockdale taking on Marconi at Rockdale Sports Centre. It's a grand final replay there, I'm pretty sure. St George Football Association takes on Sydney FC at Penshurst Park. And to round out the round on Sunday, we have Apia versus Spirit, which is a top 2 clash in the league there at Lambert Park. Some would say match of the round there. Central Coast Mariners at home again against Blacktown City at Plume Park in the Central Coast, and they're a struggle street. My picks for round 3 are Sutherland, St George, or Sydney United, St George FC, the Wollongong Wolves. I'm picking a draw between Marconi and Rockdale, Sydney FC, Apia and Blacktown City. And after the break, we will again have a look at one of Australia's most well-known clubs. So stay tuned. Welcome back. This week on part 2 of the episode, we're going to have a look at the history of Sydney United 58. So, let's have a look at Sydney United 58 FC. Sydney United 58 Football Club, originally known as Sydney Croatia, was established in 1958 by Croatian immigrants in Sydney. The club was created as a community hub for Croatian expatriates, providing a way to maintain cultural connections while fostering a passion for football. Sydney Croatia started competing in the 3rd division of the New South Wales Soccer Football Association in 1959. Due to their rapid success and strong support, the club quickly ascended through the ranks, reaching the 1st division by 1962. Ground this period, the club built a reputation for its attacking style of football and its dedicated fan base. The club's home ground, initially in various locations, later became Adenza Park, which remains its home today. Sydney Croatia's performances throughout the 60s and the 70s saw them dominate the state league scene, consistently finishing as one of the top teams. In the late 1970s and early 80s, saw Sydney Croatia cement its status as one of the strongest teams in New South Wales. The club won multiple state league championships and by 1984 earned a spot in the NSL. Entry into the NSL was a major milestone for the club, allowing it to compete against the best teams in Australia. Despite initial hurdles, Sydney Croatia proved to be a force in the NSL, reaching the final series in 85 and 86. The club's first major national silverware came in 87 when it won the NSL Cup, defeating South Melbourne 2-0 on aggregate in the final. Sydney Croatia became known for developing talented Australian players, many of whom would go on to represent the national team, the Socceroos. In 1990s were a period of both success and transition. In 93, the club changed its name from Sydney Croatia to Sydney United as part of an initiative to broaden its appeal beyond the Croatian community. Despite the rebranding, the club retained strong ties to its Croatian heritage. On the pitch, Sydney United remained competitive, finishing as NSL premiers in the 96-97 and 98-99 seasons. They reached the NSL Grand Final in 88, 97 and 99, but fell short of claiming the championship each time. With the dissolution of the NSL after the 03-04 season and the introduction of the A-League in 05, Sydney United was left without a place in the new top-tier competition. Instead, the club transitioned to the New South Wales Premier League, now known as the NPL. Despite not being part of the A-League, Sydney United continued to be one of Australia's most competitive semi-professional clubs. The club achieved multiple titles in the NPL New South Wales, winning league championships in 2006 and 2016. They also claimed premier titles in 2009 and 16, further demonstrating their dominance. Additionally, Sydney United has had success in cup competitions, winning multiple Waratah Cups. One of Sydney United's most notable achievements came in 2013 when the club won the inaugural National Premier League Championship. The national competition brought together the winners of various state-based NPL leagues, and Sydney United emerged victorious, solidifying its status as the top semi-professional club in the country. They repeated this feat in 2016, becoming the first club to win the NPL Championship twice. Sydney United made headlines in 2022 by becoming the first state league club to reach the final of the Australian Cup. The club's remarkable run saw them defeat A-League men's teams Western United and Brisbane Roar, showcasing their ability to compete at the highest level despite being outside the top division. Though they ultimately lost to Macarthur FC in the final, their journey captured the imagination of Australian football fans and reinforced their reputation as a club with a strong competitive spirit. Beyond football, Sydney United has remained a cornerstone of the Australian-Croatian community in Sydney. The club's strong support base and cultural identity continue to thrive, with fans celebrating their heritage through football. Despite the broader push for clubs to adopt more inclusive branding, Sydney United has maintained its historic roots while embracing a diverse fan base. One of Sydney United's greatest contributions to Australian football has been its role in developing top-tier talent. Over the years, the club has produced numerous players who have gone on to represent the Socceroos and play in top leagues from around the world. And if we look at some of the players that played for this club, let's just go through 6 of them. 6 of them are top-tier players. We have Mark Bosnich and Zeljko Kalac, 2 of the best goalkeepers that Australia have ever produced. Tony Popovic, Jason Kalina, Mile Jedinak, and one of my favourite strikers, Ante Milicic. I remember watching him as a kid when I used to go watch Wollongong Wolves play at Brandon Park, and it was Ante Milicic, and the other one was Mark Viduka for Melbourne Knights. They were the 2 best strikers going around in Australia. Sydney United 58 stands as one of the most storied clubs in Australian football history. From its humble beginnings as Sydney Croatia to becoming a dominant force in the NSL and later the NPL New South Wales, the club has maintained a legacy of success, player development and cultural significance. While they may no longer compete at the highest professional level, their continued influence on Australian football remains undeniable. With a proud history and passionate supporters, Sydney United will always hold a special place in the Australian football landscape. Now, that being said, I know all these clubs changed their names to be less cultural diverse, but let me know if I'm wrong. Is that what's missing in football now? Like, less cultural teams? Like, we all know Melbourne Knights are Melbourne Croatia. We all know Sydney United are Sydney Croatia. We all know Sydney Olympic are Greek heritage. Why can't we just bring that back? Like, we know South Melbourne are Greek heritage. We know Western Knights over here in West Australia are Croatian. Preston Lions are Macedonian. Like, let's bring that back. Like, I don't see the point of having these cultural diverse teams. It makes no sense. Like, Sydney United, Sydney Croatia, for crying out loud. They have a Croatian flag on their emblem. Good on them. Let's celebrate it. Anyway, that's all I have time for in this episode of Beyond the A-League for the New South Wales NPL review preview. We will be back tomorrow or probably Wednesday with a look at the Victorian NPL comp, there'll be more getting done on the Facebook page. I'll be putting up previews for the weekend for all leagues. And I'll be putting up a preview on the Facebook page too from the leagues around over the weekend. Don't forget, if you like, give us a subscribe, give us a like, give us a comment, give us a follow. It's Beyond the A-League on Facebook. If you have an email, send us an email on sportspodcastnetwork@outlook.com. If you'd like to get in touch and organise, come on here and we'll have a chat about some NPL teams or whatever. Let me know. Hit me up. Facebook, in the comments. Cheers. Have a lovely week and I'll see you tomorrow or maybe Wednesday. Have a good one. See ya. And as always, be kind to each other. See you later.